Hello, everyone. The Dark Synovia here. I am back with another review on Wheel of Time. Holy shit, it's taken me as long as to get through these books as A Song of Ice and Fire. Well, the only difference is, unlike A Song of Ice and Fire, Wheel of Time is at least completed. Now, unlike the other books in the series, like Fires of Heaven and Shadow Rising, which are like tomes, this is much shorter. And this is the first of the Wheel Time books I've read in hardcover. And yes, so New Spring. This is a prequel to Wheel of Time. It's not something I recommend to read if you haven't read the series yet. I recommend at least reading at least 5 books in before you start reading it, according to a booktuber who is a huge fan of Wheel of Time. I took his advice, the best reading order for Wheel of Time, and he said reading New Spring after Fires of Heaven would be a good place to read it. So I decided to read it after Fires of Heaven. Being a much shorter novel than the others in the series, how is it? Now I'm not gonna get into the history of New Spring because that's not what I'm here for when it comes to these reviews. I'm just telling my general thoughts on this particular novel. First, let's start off with the positives. Um, this novel, we learn, you know, how Moraine, becomes an Aes Sedai, and we get to read about a younger Moraine who isn't, the person that we know in Eye of the World. Now, if you've read Wheel of Time, you know what the premise of this book is about. But I'm not going to give away anything, you know, not right here, not right now, but I will later. Um, this book, is shorter than the others in the series, so you probably will get this one through this one very quickly. I can't see you taking more than, depending on how fast you can read, probably 10 or 12 hours to get through this. It's not that long. There is some criticism I do have of this book. I feel like, towards the end of it, it's the pacing is a little too quick. Things happen too quickly and too conveniently for my taste, and the book feel like it just ends abruptly. The ending just doesn't, end naturally like the other novels do. It's not a bad book. I think it's pretty good, but it's probably my least favorite book in the series that I've read because I feel like the pacing for the first half of the novel was pretty solid, but the second half of the novel, it's just things are happening way too quickly, and it doesn't give much time to breathe. Like Lan, like one of the characters that's featured, in this novel, he doesn't appear until like more than halfway through it. He does make an appearance in the beginning, but he doesn't really appear again until like more than halfway through it. And I don't know. I feel like this novel would have benefited if it was longer, in my opinion. This novel does feel kind of rushed during the second half. And that's just how I look at it. I don't think it's a bad novel. I think it's still a good prequel, even though there are some pacing issues, like in the second half of it being too quick for my taste. Because Wheel of Time, I'm used to it being a little bit slow at times, but the pacing, gets gradually faster and faster, as you get to the end of the novel, at least from my experience. I wouldn't recommend this novel if you haven't read a single book in the series. I recommend you at least be at a certain point in the series before you dive in. I don't think you should, read this novel, any earlier than book 5, in my opinion. Though my recommendation is probably to read these in the order that they were published. This was published sometime during the release of the 10th and 11th books. I probably would recommend at that time to read it, but in my opinion, when you get that far into the series, I don't think you're going to want to read a prequel while you're getting to the end game. So, in my opinion, book 5 is the best place to start when it comes to reading this novel. Don't read it before you read Eye of the World, because you're not going to understand various things that are mentioned in this book, and it'll give things away in later books. So no later than book 5 do I recommend reading New Spring. I give this a good rating. It's not great. I don't think it's as good as Shadow Rising or Fires of Heaven, but I still think it's a pretty solid read. This is Darth Sinovia, over and out. Next time, for my review, I'm going to be reviewing, for the first time, a Stephen King novel, Dark Tower. Have a good day, everyone, and may we live long and prosper. Later.